I stepped through the Waygate and landed in a world that didn't care if I lived or died. The forest hit me like a wet fist, cool, sour, thick with the kind of rot that seeps into your bones and stays there. My pink gown snagged on thorns the second I moved, a frilly monstrosity clinging to my hips like a bad joke. One heartbeat ago, I'm in a basement, fumbling with buttons I don't understand, my finger on the green one like a kid daring the universe to bite. Now I'm here, mud sucking at my slippers, the portal winking out behind me like a trapdoor slamming shut. The pendant at my throat, D34, shrunk down to a marble, hummed faint and warm against my skin. I'm no explorer. I shoot spicy clips in crumbling studios, sexiness and sweat my trade. But curiosity's a blade, sharp and double-edged, and it had carved me open enough to step through. D34, you still kicking? I muttered, tugging the gown's hem free from a bramble. It tore anyway, a soft rip in the silence.
Present.
It buzzed back, voice flat and tinny, like a radio left on in an empty room.
Monitoring your vitals. Reality Anchor will retrieve you in 24 hours.
24 hours, I said, letting the words hang there, heavy as the damp air. Plenty of time to regret this. Where are we?
Negative data. Organic matter detected. Elevated humidity. No further analysis available.
Real useful, Tin Man, I growled, kicking a pebble. It skittered down the dirt road ahead, packed hard under gnarled oaks that twisted skyward like they'd seen too much. Shadows flickered when I wasn't looking, playing tricks on my eyes, or maybe not tricks at all. A low whistle slid through the trees, long and mournful, the kind of sound that digs into your spine and nests there. My skin prickled, hairs standing up under the gown's lace. This wasn't Earth. The dress, the air, that wail, it was all wrong. A story I'd stumbled into blind, and I was drowning in it already. I took a step, then another, slippers crunching on the road. The whistle tugged at me, a leash I couldn't see but felt in my gut. I've always been a sucker for the unknown. Why I bid on that damn building, why I poked around its basement, why I pressed that button. Curiosity's my curse, and it's landed me in worse spots than this. Or so I told myself as the trees closed in, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. The gown dragged, mud streaking its hem, and I cursed it under my breath. Who designs a portal that dresses you up like a princess in a brother's grim nightmare? I wasn't built for this. Give me a mini-skirt and a lens. I'd make magic. Here, I was just a fish flopping on the bank, gasping. The road curved, and I stopped cold. Iron tracks cut through the forest, rusted, tangled in vines, a scar from some forgotten age. A splintered crossing arm dangled like a broken wing, creaking in the breeze. And a sign swung from a weathered post. Crow's Hollow, 2 leagues. I didn't know what a league was, some old-timey bullshit probably, but it sounded far and grim, a name that promised trouble. Gas lamps flickered to life along the path, their yellow glow weak against the creeping dusk, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers. Victorian strangeness in a fairy tale hell, I'd landed in a mashup of eras, a place stitched together from dreams gone sour. The whistle blew again, sharper now, rattling my teeth, and I felt it in my chest, a hollow ache that said run and stay all at once. I edged closer to the tracks, boots, well, slippers, sinking into the soft earth. The rails were old, pitted with rust, but they hummed faintly, a vibration I felt through my soles. Something had passed here, something big, and not long ago. I knelt, brushing vines off a tie, and found a glint. A small metal disc, cracked down the middle, etched with DS13. My pulse kicked up, a quick thud against my ribs. I'd seen those initials before, scrawled on yellowed papers back in the office, buried under decades of dust. No idea who DS was, some dead bureaucrat maybe. But it was a thread, a whisper of connection between my world and this one. I palmed the disc, its edges biting into my skin, and stood, scanning the trees. The whistle looped back, fainter but insistent, like a hound catching a scent. That's when I saw him, shadow peeling off an oak, tall and broad, stepping into the lamplight like he owned the damn forest. A dark waistcoat hugged his chest, tight over a white shirt with sleeves rolled up over forearms that looked like they could snap a neck without trying. A tricorn hat sat low, shading his eyes, but his smirk flickered clear as day. Sharp, dangerous, the kind of smile that promises trouble and delivers it slow. He moved toward me, boots silent on the dirt, and I felt the air shift, heavy with something I couldn't name.
Lost, milady?
He said, voice like smoke curling over gravel, low and rough. I smoothed the gown, mud streaking my fingers, and shot back. Not lost, roaming. Who are you?
Silas, keeper of these paths.
He said, tipping his hat just enough to show eyes dark as coal, glinting with a spark I didn't trust, but didn't hate. His gaze slid over me, lingering where the gown clung to my hips, and I let it.
Few wander here. Bold heart or empty head?
Little of both, I said, stepping closer, close enough to catch his scent. Leather, pine, a hint of iron. That whistle, what's it playing at? His smirk faded, shadows pooling under his hat.
The Iron Wraith, a train with no rails, cursed to run forever. Took a dozen souls nigh on a decade past. Keeps taking, keeps crashing. You hear it? You're marked.
Marked, huh? I said, hooked despite the chill crawling up my spine. Sounds like a ghost story with teeth.
Aye, and it bites.
He said, nodding down the tracks.
Wrecks are yonder, if you've the stomach to see.
I glanced at the rails, then back at him, his eyes pulling me in like a tide I didn't fight. Show me, I said, voice steady even if my gut wasn't. I was in over my head, sure, but I've danced with worse shadows than this. And Silas, with his broad shoulders and quiet menace, was a shadow I didn't mind following. The whistle wailed again, low and hungry, and I knew whatever lay ahead wasn't letting go easy. Silas didn't wait for me to change my mind. He turned and started down the tracks, his boots silent on the packed dirt, like the forest had made a pact to keep his secrets. I followed, the pink gown dragging behind me like a wounded thing, its hem already a mess of mud and tears. The gas lamps flickered as we passed, their yellow glow throwing shadows that danced too quick, too alive. The whistle wailed again, low and hungry, curling through the trees like a promise or a threat. I wasn't sure which, but it pulled me forward, a hook in my gut I couldn't shake. I've chased worse things than this, late-night alleys, shady deals, but nothing like this world, where every step felt like trespassing on a grave. You always this chatty? I said, catching up to Silas. His stride was long, easy, a predator's gait, and I had to hustle to match it, the gown tripping me up every third step.
When there's aught worth saying,
he replied, not breaking pace. His voice carried that smoky edge, and his hat tipped low, hiding half his face.
You're no lady of the court, I'll wager. Whence came you?
Far off, I said, dodging the truth. No point telling him I'd stumbled through a basement portal in a rundown government shack. I barely believed it myself. Place called Trouble. Heard of it? He grunted, a sound that might have been a laugh.
Aye, I've lodged there a night or two.
His eyes flicked to me, dark and piercing, and I caught that smirk again, faint but sharp.
You've the look of one who courts it.
Guilty? I said, smirking back. The banter steadied me, a lifeline in this strangeness. The tracks stretched ahead, rusted iron glinting under the lamps, and the air grew heavier, thick with damp and something acrid. Coal smoke, maybe, or the ghost of it. The whistle sounded again, closer, rattling my teeth, and I felt it in my chest, a hollow thud that said, "You're not welcome here." D34, you picking up anything? I muttered, fingers brushing the pendant. It hummed against my throat, warm and alive.
Auditory anomaly detected.
It buzzed, tinny and flat.
Source proximity increasing. No further data.
Fantastic, I said, rolling my eyes. Keep me posted, genius. Silas shot me a look, one brow arched, but I waved it off. Talking to myself, bad habit.
If you say so.
he said, and kept moving. The forest tightened around us, oaks giving way to skeletal pines, their needles black and dripping. The lamps grew scarcer, their light fainter, and the tracks veered into a clearing, a graveyard of iron and ruin. Train cars lay scattered, twisted hulks half swallowed by vines, their frames bent like they'd been chewed up and spat out. Rust flaked off in red sheets, and the air stank of metal and decay, sharp enough to taste. I stopped, breath catching, the gown's lace itching against my skin.
Behold the wraith's leavings,
Silas said, voice low, almost reverent. He stepped to a wreck, brushing a hand over its side, and I saw the tightness in his jaw, the shadow of something personal.
crashes every few seasons. No rhyme, no reason, just ruin.
I moved closer, slippers sinking into the muck. The cars were old, Victorian by the look. Ornate rivets, cracked windows, but mangled beyond repair. I ran a finger along a jagged edge, and it came away red with rust, not blood, though it felt close enough. No bodies?
None found.
He said, crouching by a toppled carriage.
Folk vanish, passengers, drivers, all, my brother among them.
Rough deal, I said and meant it. I knew loss, the kind that gnaws quiet and slow, though mine was less noble. Bad deals, worse men. I poked at a wreck, vines snapping under my touch, and spotted that glint again. The DS-13 disc, still in my pocket, burning a hole there. Another piece caught my eye, a shard of metal etched with faint scratches, maybe letters, maybe nothing. I palmed it too, heart kicking. Threads, whispers, but of what? I didn't know, and that ignorance itched worse than the gown. The whistle screamed, loud, sudden, a banshee's cry that shook the ground. I stumbled, catching myself on a wreck, and Silas was up, hand on my arm steadying me. His grip was rough, warm, and I didn't pull away.
It's near,
He said, eyes scanning the trees.
closer than it's been.
Near's bad, right? I said, voice thinner than I liked. The air shimmered, a heat haze ripple over the tracks, and the whistle looped, a rhythm I could feel in my pulse. Something was coming, something big, and I wasn't ready. Not in this dress, not with a talking marble as my only backup. D-34, what's it doing? I hissed.
Source approaching.
It buzzed.
Velocity increasing. Recommend caution.
Caution, I muttered. Great plan. Silas didn't hear or didn't care, his gaze locked down the tracks, body tense like a coiled spring. The shimmer thickened and a shape flickered. Jagged iron, ghostly steam, a train with no rails, no sense, just hunger. The iron wraith, full and real, barreling toward us out of the dusk, its whistle a death knell that drowned my thoughts.
Move!
Silas barked, yanking me sideways. I tripped, gown catching on a root, and hit the dirt hard, mud smearing my hands. The wraith roared closer, a wall of sound and shadow, its edges blurred but sharp, iron teeth, splintered wood, a thing born of nightmare. My gut screamed run, but my legs were jelly, pinned by the sheer wrongness of it. I faced down creeps with cameras, dodged fists in dark rooms. But this was beyond me, and I hated it. D-34, do something, I snapped, clutching the pendant. It buzzed, stretching into a flat disc, a foot wide, no more, a pitiful shield. I scrambled up, shoving Silas behind it as the wraith hit. Wind howled, tearing at my gown, shredding the hem to ribbons. Metal shrieked, a sound that clawed my ears, and the disc shook in my grip, barely holding. The wraith passed, a storm of iron and fury, and vanished into the trees, leaving silence, thick, heavy, and wrong. I dropped the disc, panting, and it snapped back to a pendant, humming innocent at my throat. Silas stared, chest heaving, his hat askew.
What manner of charm's that?
Something I found, I said, dodging again. My hands shook, mud caking my fingers, and I wiped them on the gown, ruined anyway. You whole?
Battered but hale.
He said, voice rough. His hand lingered on my arm, steadying, and I felt his heat through the chill.
You?
Breathing, I said, meeting his eyes, dark, wild, pulling me in. The whistle looped back, fainter but alive, a promise it wasn't done.